Have you ever wondered why some people walk into a room without raising their voice, without demanding attention, and yet everyone notices them? It is not because they are the loudest. It is not because they are the richest. It is because they carry something that cannot be bought, borrowed, or faked. They carry a deep understanding of their own worth. And the remarkable truth is this: people learn how to value you by watching the way you value yourself. Every decision you make, every boundary you keep, every moment you refuse to betray your own peace becomes a lesson that the world quietly studies. Long before people hear your words, they have already read your actions. Too many people spend years chasing acceptance, believing respect comes from pleasing everyone, saying yes to everything, or shrinking themselves so others feel comfortable. But respect has never grown in the shadow of self-neglect. It grows where courage lives. It grows where honesty stands firm. It grows where a person decides that their dignity is no longer negotiable. The strongest message you will ever send is not spoken with your mouth. It is written through your choices, your habits, and your willingness to walk away from anything that asks you to become less than who you are. Today, we are going to uncover 7 quiet behaviors that reveal your value without a single boast or demand. These are not dramatic acts designed to impress the world. They are steady, powerful habits that reshape the way people see you, because they first reshape the way you see yourself. When these behaviors become part of your life, respect stops being something you chase and starts becoming something you naturally attract. Your worth is never decided by the applause of strangers or the approval of a crowd. It begins in the quiet moments when no one is watching, when you choose how you will speak to yourself, how you will carry yourself, and what you are willing to accept. The relationship you build with yourself becomes the blueprint others unconsciously follow. If you constantly dismiss your own needs, ignore your own feelings, or settle for less than you deserve, people often learn that your boundaries can be crossed without consequence. On the other hand, when you consistently honor your values and treat yourself with care, you silently communicate that your dignity is not open for negotiation. This is not about pride or arrogance. It is about recognizing that every human being possesses an inherent value that should never depend on popularity, status, or someone else's opinion. Self-respect begins with the smallest decisions. It is choosing honesty even when a lie would be easier. It is keeping promises you make to yourself, not just the promises you make to others. It is refusing to abandon your principles for temporary acceptance. These quiet choices shape your character over time. People may not notice them immediately, but they feel their impact. There is a calm confidence in someone who knows who they are. Such a person does not need to announce their importance because their actions already speak with clarity. They do not compete for attention because they understand that genuine respect cannot be forced. It is earned through consistency. Many people confuse self-respect with being difficult or distant. In reality, self-respect allows you to be kind without becoming a victim of manipulation. You can be compassionate without sacrificing your peace. You can be generous without allowing others to take advantage of your kindness. There is a powerful difference between serving others out of love and serving others out of fear of rejection. When fear controls your actions, you begin to lose pieces of yourself. But when self-respect guides your choices, your kindness becomes stronger because it comes from freedom instead of desperation. Think about the people you naturally admire. Often, they are not those who constantly seek recognition. They are the ones who remain true to themselves regardless of changing circumstances. They do not pretend to be someone else to fit into every room. They understand that authenticity attracts the right people, while pretense attracts temporary approval. Their confidence is rooted in character rather than appearance. Even when they make mistakes, they take responsibility instead of making excuses. That willingness to stand honestly before themselves earns the respect of others. Self-respect also changes the way you respond to challenges. Instead of allowing criticism to define you, you examine it with wisdom. If it helps you grow, you accept it with humility. If it is rooted in bitterness or misunderstanding, you let it pass without allowing it to damage your identity. You stop giving every opinion equal authority over your life. Not every voice deserves a place in your mind. The moment you realize that your value is not determined by every compliment or every insult, you begin to experience a freedom that many people spend their entire lives searching for. When you respect yourself, your posture changes, your decisions become clearer, and your relationships become healthier. You stop begging for spaces where you are merely tolerated and begin investing your time in places where your presence is appreciated. You no longer feel compelled to explain every choice or defend every dream. Quiet confidence replaces constant justification. Instead of exhausting yourself trying to convince people of your worth, you allow your integrity, discipline, and consistency to become the evidence. Day after day, through ordinary actions repeated with purpose, you teach the world that the greatest standard for how you should be treated has already been established by the way you choose to treat yourself. Boundaries are often misunderstood as walls that push people away, but in truth, they are bridges that protect healthy relationships. They are quiet expressions of self-respect that tell others where your values begin and where your peace must remain untouched. Every time you say yes to something that violates your principles, simply to avoid disappointing someone, you teach people that your comfort is less important than their convenience. Over time, this pattern becomes a silent invitation for others to expect more than you can reasonably give. But when you establish clear boundaries with kindness and confidence, you demonstrate that your time, energy, and emotional well-being have value. This is not about controlling others. It is about taking responsibility for what you allow into your own life. Many people struggle with boundaries because they fear being misunderstood. They worry that saying no will make them appear selfish, unkind, or difficult. Yet the strongest relationships are rarely built on endless agreement. They are built on honesty. A respectful no often creates more trust than a reluctant yes filled with resentment. When your words and your feelings are aligned, people know where they stand with you. They may not always like your decision, but they are far more likely to respect it because it comes from authenticity instead of obligation. Protecting your peace does not require anger or confrontation. It is often expressed through calm consistency. It is deciding not to answer every argument, not to participate in every conflict, and not to carry burdens that were never yours to begin with. Some people will test your limits, intentionally or unintentionally, because they have grown accustomed to others sacrificing themselves for approval. Your response teaches them what is acceptable. If you constantly bend your values to keep everyone comfortable, they will assume your boundaries are flexible. But when you remain steady without becoming hostile, you send a powerful message that your principles are not temporary preferences. They are permanent commitments. One of the greatest signs of emotional maturity is understanding that you cannot be everything for everyone. You cannot solve every problem, meet every expectation, or fulfill every demand placed upon you. Trying to do so often leads to exhaustion rather than appreciation. The more you neglect your own needs, the less you have to offer the people who genuinely matter. Healthy boundaries are not acts of rejection. They are acts of preservation. They ensure that your generosity comes from abundance rather than depletion, allowing you to give with joy instead of obligation. People who command quiet respect understand that every yes carries the weight of many unseen no's. Every commitment requires the sacrifice of time, focus, and energy that could have been invested elsewhere. Because of this, they choose carefully. They do not apologize for protecting their priorities. They understand that every hour is a part of their life they will never get back. This awareness makes their decisions intentional rather than impulsive. Others may initially resist these boundaries, especially if they benefited from your lack of them in the past. But consistency gradually reshapes expectations. Eventually, people learn that your kindness is genuine, yet your standards remain firm. Boundaries also protect your identity. Without them, it becomes easy to lose yourself in the opinions, demands, and expectations of others. You begin living a life designed by everyone else's approval instead of your own convictions. But when you guard your peace, you preserve the freedom to think clearly, grow intentionally, and remain faithful to your purpose. You no longer feel guilty for choosing rest when you need it, or for stepping away from environments that constantly drain your spirit. Instead, you recognize that protecting your inner peace is one of the greatest responsibilities you owe yourself. Because every strong decision, every meaningful relationship, and every lasting achievement begins with a mind and heart that are not constantly overwhelmed by the noise of the world. Consistency is one of the quietest forms of power. It rarely attracts instant attention, yet it leaves the deepest impression over time. Anyone can appear confident for a day, speak with passion for a moment, or make a promise when emotions are high. But true character is revealed through repeated actions. The habits you practice every day become the evidence of who you are. People may forget your words, but they remember your reliability. They remember whether you kept your commitments, whether your actions matched your promises, and whether your values remained steady when circumstances became difficult. This is how respect is built, not through occasional brilliance, but through unwavering consistency. In a world that celebrates quick success and dramatic achievements, it is easy to overlook the quiet discipline required to show up every single day. Yet the people who earn lasting admiration are often those who continue moving forward even when no one is watching. They do the right thing without expecting applause. They prepare when others procrastinate. They remain focused while others are distracted by temporary excitement. Their strength does not come from motivation alone, because motivation rises and falls. Their strength comes from discipline, the decision to keep going regardless of how they feel in a particular moment. Consistency also creates trust. And trust is one of the greatest forms of respect another person can offer. Imagine someone who constantly changes their values depending on who they are with. One day they stand for honesty, and the next day they compromise it for convenience. One moment they are dependable, and the next they disappear when responsibility becomes uncomfortable. Such unpredictability makes it difficult for others to rely on them. In contrast, a consistent person brings stability into every relationship. Others know what to expect because their principles do not shift with every opinion or challenge. That dependability becomes a quiet source of confidence for everyone around them. Integrity is closely connected to consistency. Integrity means doing what is right, even when it is inconvenient, unnoticed, or misunderstood. It is refusing shortcuts that compromise your values. It is choosing truth over comfort and responsibility over excuses. These choices may not produce immediate rewards, but they shape a reputation that cannot easily be broken. A person with integrity does not need to constantly defend their character because their actions have already spoken on their behalf. Their life becomes their introduction long before they say a single word. There will be moments when consistency feels ordinary and unrewarding. Progress may seem invisible. Recognition may never arrive when you expect it. During these seasons, many people become discouraged because they mistake silence for failure. But the strongest foundations are built quietly. Just as a tree grows its roots beneath the ground long before anyone admires its branches, your daily discipline is preparing you for opportunities you cannot yet see. Every honest effort, every kept promise, and every small act of responsibility is strengthening your character in ways that will reveal themselves with time. Consistency also protects you from becoming controlled by emotions. Feelings are valuable, but they are temporary. Some days you will feel inspired, and other days you will feel uncertain. If your actions depend entirely on your emotions, your progress will always be unstable. But when your decisions are guided by principles instead of passing moods, you become dependable even during difficult seasons. This kind of steadiness commands respect because it reflects maturity rather than impulse. People who quietly inspire others are not necessarily the most talented or the most fortunate. More often, they are the ones who continue honoring their commitments when the excitement has faded. They understand that excellence is not created by one extraordinary moment, but by thousands of ordinary moments handled with care. They know that every small choice contributes to the person they are becoming. Over time, these choices shape a reputation that no amount of self-promotion can replace. Respect earned through consistency is lasting because it is rooted in evidence rather than appearance, and every day you choose discipline over excuses, honesty over convenience, and perseverance over comfort. You are silently teaching the world that your character is dependable, your values are genuine, and your worth is measured not by what you occasionally achieve, but by who you faithfully choose to be every single day of your life. Silence is often mistaken for weakness in a world that rewards the loudest voice, the quickest response, and the most dramatic reaction. Yet some of the strongest people understand that silence is not the absence of power. It is the presence of control. It is the ability to choose your response instead of allowing your emotions to choose it for you. Every time you refuse to react impulsively, you demonstrate a level of confidence that cannot be imitated. People who know their worth do not feel obligated to answer every criticism, defend themselves against every misunderstanding, or prove themselves to everyone they meet. They recognize that not every opinion deserves their attention, and not every conflict deserves their participation. There is a remarkable strength in remaining calm when others expect you to lose control. Anger often seeks an audience. Negativity feeds on reaction. Some individuals provoke others because they enjoy watching emotions take over. When you respond immediately with frustration, you hand them the influence they were seeking. But when you remain composed, you protect your peace and keep control of the situation. Silence in these moments is not surrender. It is wisdom. It is the understanding that your energy is too valuable to waste on arguments that lead nowhere. This does not mean you should never speak. There are moments when truth must be spoken with courage, injustice must be challenged, and important conversations cannot be avoided. However, there is a difference between speaking because your values require it and speaking because your emotions demand it. Wise people understand this difference. They pause before responding. They think before reacting. They ask themselves whether their words will solve a problem or simply create another one. That brief moment of reflection often changes the entire direction of a conversation. Silence also gives you the opportunity to observe. While others are busy talking, you begin to notice what words often hide. You recognize patterns in people's behavior. You learn who is sincere and who is merely seeking attention. You discover which relationships are built on respect and which ones depend on manipulation. Observation is a powerful teacher because actions reveal what words often conceal. Someone may make endless promises, but consistent behavior tells the real story. By listening more than speaking, you gain clarity that impulsive reactions could never provide. Many people feel uncomfortable with silence because they believe they must constantly explain themselves. They think every decision requires justification and every choice demands approval. But confidence grows when you no longer feel the need to convince everyone that you are right. Your life becomes your explanation. Your character becomes your defense. Instead of exhausting yourself trying to change every opinion, you focus on living with integrity. Over time, genuine actions speak more loudly than endless arguments ever could. Silence also protects your emotional well-being. Harsh words spoken in anger can leave wounds that last far longer than the moment itself. Once spoken, they cannot be taken back. Choosing silence for a few moments allows emotions to settle and wisdom to rise. It creates space for understanding instead of regret. This habit strengthens relationships because it prevents unnecessary conflict and encourages thoughtful communication rather than emotional outbursts. Calm confidence has a unique presence. It does not demand attention, yet people naturally notice it. A person who remains steady during criticism, patient during pressure, and respectful during disagreement demonstrates emotional maturity that others deeply admired. Such individuals are not controlled by the opinions of the crowd because they have already established peace within themselves. They understand that true strength is measured not by how loudly they can respond, but by how wisely they can choose when to speak and when to remain silent, allowing their composure, discernment, and quiet confidence to reveal a level of self-worth that no argument could ever prove. Authenticity is one of the rarest qualities in a world where many people feel pressured to imitate others in order to be accepted. Every day, countless individuals change the way they speak, think, dress, or behave simply because they fear rejection. They believe that fitting in is the key to being respected, yet genuine respect is never built on pretending to be someone you are not. It is built on the quiet confidence of living according to your own values, even when those values are not popular. When you are authentic, you stop measuring your worth by how many people approve of you and begin measuring it by how faithfully you live according to your principles. That shift changes everything because it frees you from the exhausting need to constantly seek validation. Authenticity begins with self-awareness. It requires the courage to understand who you truly are beneath the expectations of family, friends, society, and culture. It asks difficult questions. What do you genuinely believe? What kind of person do you want to become? What values are you unwilling to compromise, even when doing so would make life easier? These questions do not always have immediate answers, but the willingness to explore them is the beginning of a meaningful life. A person who knows themselves is far less likely to be controlled by the opinions of others because they have already established a clear sense of identity. Living authentically does not mean being perfect. In fact, authenticity often requires admitting imperfections instead of hiding them. It means acknowledging mistakes with humility, accepting responsibility for your actions, and choosing growth over pride. People naturally trust those who are honest about their weaknesses because honesty creates connection. Pretending to have all the answers may impress some people for a moment, but genuine humility earns respect that lasts much longer. Authentic individuals are not afraid to learn because they understand that wisdom begins with recognizing there is always more to discover. One of the greatest challenges to authenticity is comparison. It is easy to look at someone else's success and believe you must become like them to achieve your own goals. Social media, public recognition, and constant exposure to carefully crafted images often create the illusion that everyone else has already found the perfect life. But comparison quietly steals confidence because it shifts your focus away from your own journey. Every person has a unique story, unique strengths, unique struggles, and a unique purpose. Trying to imitate someone else's path often leads you further away from your own potential. True influence comes not from copying greatness, but from expressing your own character with honesty and consistency. Authenticity also requires courage during difficult moments. There will be times when standing by your values costs you opportunities, approval, or comfort. Some people may misunderstand your choices. Others may criticize you simply because you refuse to follow the crowd. Yet every time you remain faithful to your principles, you strengthen your character. Temporary popularity may come from pleasing everyone, but lasting respect comes from remaining true to yourself. People may not always agree with your decisions, but they recognize the strength it takes to live with integrity instead of convenience. The most inspiring individuals are rarely those who try to be extraordinary in the eyes of others. They are the ones who quietly live with honesty, compassion, and conviction every day. Their words match their actions. Their values remain steady regardless of changing circumstances. They do not wear different masks for different audiences because they understand that real confidence grows from consistency between who they are in public and who they are in private. This kind of authenticity creates trust, strengthens relationships, and inspires others to embrace their own truth. When you stop chasing acceptance and start living according to your deepest values, your presence becomes more powerful than your reputation. Your character becomes more influential than your image, and your life quietly teaches everyone around you that genuine worth is never created by pretending to be someone else, but by having the courage to become exactly who you were meant to be.